first thing that I want to talk about is Jerry Stackhouse, after Vanderbilt lost to Arkansas, just completely threw his team under the bus. He said we have guys that basically said we have guys that don't really want to play, and he specifically went out and threw a freshman named Miles Stute under the bus. And this is what he said. He says, "You hate to point out one thing, one guy, but it's just today it was literally Miles Stute. I couldn't even keep him in the game. And freshmen are going to have ups and downs, but they're supposed to be able to play well at home. I expect them to not to perform as well on the road. That's typically what role players and young guys struggle with. But we get, again, those 3 middle drives that led." And then he went on some other note, but he specifically called out and specifically named a freshman for not playing up to his potential. And that wasn't the only, like, he kind of went off. So I'm just curious, like, you played for a guy that is probably as intense as anybody in college basketball. You played at the NBA level. You played professionally overseas for a long time. Eventually you're going to get into coaching, I'm assuming. So what do you make of that? Is that the way that you would handle that situation? Are you okay with that? If you were, if that was your son or someone that played for like your AAU program, how would you feel about Jerry Stackhouse doing that? Because I have all kinds of takes, and I don't think that it's the right thing to do, but I'm going to give you the floor on this one.
I talked to a ton of my, I heard some of the stuff he said. I didn't hear the part about him talking about Miles Stute, which I feel is like, well, first of all, everything he said, I didn't really too much agree with, but that just to throw the kid personally, just to speak his name and throw him under the bus, I feel like that's a no-no. You can't do that as a coach. Why I want to get into coaching, and I'm not sure if everybody else wants to get like what their reasons are for, but I mean, I love basketball and I don't know the ins and outs of the business. I see and I saw how tough it is for our head coach and our assistant coaches when I was at WVU as a grad assistant. How tough it is for the coaches at the professional levels overseas and in the NBA. Like it's guys like, it's like almost like a presidential type deal where, you see them when they get the job and they're young, and then all the stress because of the job and everything that the job entails. And these dudes like look older and everything like that. But
hey, look, that is true. After a long season, like a guy gets a head coaching job, and all of a sudden, 2 years later, he's got white hair. Like Tony Bennett was great. Tony Bennett was like this handsome young man, and then he gets a head coaching job in Virginia. And he has to go up against Duke and North Carolina and Syracuse and Virginia, or I'm sorry, Syracuse and Louisville 2 times every year. And all of a sudden, he's the silver fox.
Exactly, and it's a tough job, and the job only gets tougher if you want to do the job because of just wins and losses. Wins and losses can't be why you want to coach. And I kind of feel like he was frustrated because of, he named some of the reasons why he was frustrated. So I'm not going to assume that just the winning is the most important. He named things about, him going over things with these guys constantly, day in and day out, and them making the same mistakes in the games and just think there's no carryover. I remember him saying, but you can't. He's been in the business of basketball, like professionally. He went to college. He knows what it's like to be in these players' shoes. He wouldn't have liked that if he played. Why would you do it to the player? Why subject these younger dudes? You're supposed to be able to, and this is one of the quotes from my friends when I talked to him about it. He's like, you're supposed to be able to like hold this mirror up to these players and show them the best parts of themselves. Mm-hmm. Where is that when you do stuff like that? When you go out to the media and lash out at your team, how is that helping them see the best parts of themselves? When you point out a particular player who's a freshman, by the way. How do you start off saying, I know you're a freshman and yada, 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 but like he's a freshman and you're expecting him to, and also in the same sense, in another sentence, he like killed his 4-year and 5-year guys. Like you can't do stuff like that. You won't keep a locker room. You won't garner any respect. I mean, I don't know how they feel about him. I can't say you can't. Like, they probably still respect him. They probably still have love for him. But I know it can definitely cause a strain on the team if I was on the team and the coach decided to do that instead of just talk to me personally. And maybe he did talk to this guy.
You got to keep it in house.
But you got to keep it in house. You can't.
Yep.
You can't just spill that out. Like, it's one thing if you say that to your staff, and even then, it's just like, geez, that's kind of it's tough. But I mean, if you said it to your staff, even then, it's their staff. It's in house.
Yes,
you just went out and went on a rant, and not to mention, he's like going back and forth on Twitter with people.
Yeah,
and it's just like, bro, like, what are you doing? Like, and I'm not coaching, so I know, like, I don't know the ins and outs of like what's making this more, like, the most difficult for him, like what's causing him this stress. But I do know, like, you're as a coach, that's not what you're in it for. You're not supposed to be. This should never come to that.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And the biggest issue that I have with it is that when you are, it's the dynamic of a coach who made like $50 million, probably more than that, playing in the NBA, right? Like he's generationally wealthy, right? Like his grandkids are never going to have to worry about money. He's making 7 figures as the head coach at Vanderbilt, while these kids are being forced to play because in a situation where, like, they're horrible, right? Vanderbilt's terrible. They're 0-5. They might not win a game in the SEC. They stink. And these kids are being forced to, they're being forced to play because Jerry Stackhouse's salary's got to get paid. We need an NCAA tournament to happen so that the NCAA doesn't go belly up. It's just, in a year with all of this stuff going on, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Like, I can't understand what would drive somebody to do that. Like, and look, I'm not saying that he shouldn't be pissed, and I'm not saying that he shouldn't be frustrated, and I'm not saying that he shouldn't go back into that locker room and motherfuck Miles Stute if Miles Stute would miss a rotation or was not doing what he was told to do, or was like not playing hard or was just not into it. Like, you could cuss your guy out in the locker room. I'm sure that you've done stuff in practice or in games that caused Bob Huggins to yell so hard that he literally melted the paint off of the walls in the locker room.
Yeah, right? I've done things off the court that caused him to do that. So, but let alone on the floor. Like,
but so. you know what Bob Huggins probably would have never done? He probably never would have gone to the media and said, "Hey, Da'Sean Butler fucked this up. Da'Sean Butler messed this up." You just can't do that. And also, if you're talking about a guy that is like the star of your team, like a senior leader that can handle it, where that's like saying that kind of thing is going to light the fire under him. Like, that's a different conversation. There are specific instances where, like, calling a player out in the press can be useful, right? But like with a freshman in this situation, like, I just think it's so wrong.
I can't even see it. I can't see it. I can't see a way around it. Yeah.
And we're being consistent here, man. Like, we killed Coach Cal for doing this early in the season when he put out a statement being like, we're kicking Cam Fletcher off the team. And again, like, I understood the frustration with Cal, but like, you just can't put that stuff out there, man. He
used Cal as a reference too in this thing.
Yeah, that was the funny part. Like,
I was like, he was wrong. It's like, he was wrong. It's like you used the wrong guy as a reference. Like,
yeah, I mean, look, I kind of understand the point that he was trying to make, but like, if you're Jerry Stackhouse in his career is 15-28, and he's 3-20 in the SEC in his career. John Calipari is having a bad season, right? Yeah. Jerry Stackhouse has done nothing to make us think that he's anything other than a bad coach, right? Yeah, so exactly. Like, you can't be like invoking John Calipari's name at this point. All right, I just wanted your take on it because I knew how I felt, and I was I didn't play like I didn't live it like you lived it, so I thought that was interesting.